Welcome to the Chairman's Perspective Podcast.
Welcome to the Chairman's Perspective. I'm Mark Billingsley, Chairman of the Shelby County Board of Commissioners, and today it is such a pleasure to have my dear friend, a longtime friend, Beverly Robertson, who is President and CEO of the Greater Memphis Chamber. How are you this afternoon, Beverly?
Mark, I am fine. We are busy as bees, but hey, I'm just glad to be here to be able to contribute.
I tell you, I really appreciate your time today. I realize how busy you are right now at the Greater Memphis Chamber. Before we went live, we were just talking about how busy we are during this time. And I know right now you're operating out of the Robertson estate from home. But as you and I were talking, I think you and I both have been busier now during COVID-19 than even before.
Oh, there is no doubt about it. There's so many needs and so many gaps that I'm just happy to be able to make a meaningful contribution, especially for business and particularly small business.
Let's talk about the Greater Memphis Chamber. You are certainly leading in the midst of a pandemic, something like we've never seen before, never anticipated. So let me ask you, Beverly, what role has the Chamber played in helping businesses right now during this crisis? And especially, Beverly, you and I both have so many friends in this region and in Memphis and the Mid-South and small businesses that have always had an extra set of challenges, but how is the Chamber playing a role right now for business and especially small business?
Well, Mark, early on, we knew that this was going to be tough. So we started out, we got a head start. We got out in February, mid-February. We recognized that someone needed to be communicating to businesses about what was coming. And so we started on the 18th of February communicating, setting up our website so that it could serve as a resource. So we've done several things. We actually have built awareness around opportunities for small businesses to take advantage of the stimulus program. We've been communicating and we've been educating. And when we start talking about that, I will tell you that we've probably done about 30 webinars since this started. 30 webinars. And those webinars have been with the SBA office out of Atlanta. We've had a couple with them. It's been with lawyers who have reviewed the payroll protection program and wanted to explain that. It's been with bankers who actually are the people who are actually awarding the money. It's been with consultants who really have talked about what you need to do now, small business, as you will be in for a pretty rough ride moving ahead. So we have really tried to be the voice of business, but more importantly, the voice of assistance. We've actually called all of our membership just about every week. Wow. And they have told, and we've asked them, look, where are you now? What do you need? What can we do? And they have responded. And of course, Mark, you know, the number one issue for small business is always capital or access to capital. So there is a need. And even with the stimulus, they thought they'd have an opportunity to really apply. But what started happening is larger businesses that were connected to franchise organizations got so much money that it shut down the system, and smaller businesses did not have an opportunity to do it. So what we realized, though, is when we started calling people, some of the businesses started saying, look, I need people to work for me. You know, I've got more demand that I can handle with the existing capacity that I've got. Wow. So we created a business resource page on our website. We are listing now all jobs that are available, the companies that they're available for. Contact people so folks can call them. Anybody that's laid off and wants a job can actually go to our website. Amazon is hiring. FedEx has been hiring. There are a number of other businesses that are hiring. So our resource page is a true asset to those who are seeking opportunities. But those are just some of the things. We've even talked to elected officials. We had Kustoff on the other day. We had Steve Cohen on. We'll probably have Marsha Blackburn on. But we want to hear from the people who represent us at the federal level so that we know they are lobbying for us and advocating on our behalf.
Boy, congratulations. I cannot imagine organizing 30 webinars in the amount of time that you've had. Let me ask you this, Beverly. What businesses do you think have been hurt the most? The Chamber represents literally every industry, every trade, but who do you think has been hurt the most in Memphis and the Mid-South?
I was on a call every day for the last maybe couple of weeks with Kevin Kane and the travel and tourism business. Mm-hmm. And can I just tell you that they have been traumatized by the impact that this virus has had on them. Restaurants are really being challenged, for those especially who have not been able to establish a regular takeout business segment. Hotels, we were receiving 1 million visitors a month in Memphis, Tennessee.
Wow.
You imagine that filled lots of beds, there are lots of heads in beds as a result of that. But now people are not coming. Those hotels are closed for the most part, or certainly those who operate at a very small percentage of the occupancy that they're accustomed to having. And so I would say that probably people in the lodging and hospitality industry, entertainment, artists who perform, those folks are, on life support right now.
We are on the chairman's perspective. I'm Mark Billingsley, the host. I'm the chairman of the Shelby County Board of Commissioners. And today I'm so honored to have the president and CEO of the Greater Memphis Chamber with us, Beverly Robertson, well known in this community for all of her efforts, but especially as she leads the Greater Memphis Chamber during the COVID-19 crisis. Beverly, let me ask you this. What impact do you think COVID-19 will have on the local economy beyond, hopefully, what we're going to see as a couple of months? What do you think the impact will be for the next 6 months to the next year?
Yeah. I was reading an article very recently that came out of UC Berkeley, and one of the things it said, COVID-19 is not over when it's over. And I think what they meant by that is the repercussions, the fallout from COVID-19 will continue to be felt. Here's one thing that I do know. I do know that if a small business misses payroll one time, they're on the margins. If they miss it twice, they really are just about over and done. Here is my prediction. My prediction is that we are going to lose some small businesses as a result of this virus. What I am hopeful of is that we can get enough businesses stimulated with some of these stimulus funds and the programs that EDGE, City of Memphis have now that will provide some funding to hopefully keep that operation running at some level. So for those that we will lose, I am hoping that they retrofit their business. There are new opportunities that I hope they will see for themselves. And maybe they won't come back as the same business, but maybe they'll come back as a different business. And so we've got to help that process. I mean, when you start looking at Epicenter and the kind of work that they do with entrepreneurs, maybe that's a resource that can help people begin to rethink about how they retool their business to be able to address a different segment of the marketplace. But there is no question that the fallout is going to be felt for the next 2 years from this. So I think we'll be coming back gradually, though, but I think we won't be on real solid footing until probably, I'd say we're going to be getting to see the light toward the end of 2021 and beginning of 2022.
Well, it's obvious we're really going to need leaders like you and the Greater Memphis Chamber. You mentioned the Epicenter. We're going to need their help. I know there's a lot of efforts out there. There's something the county funded last year, the 800 initiative that helps the sustainability of minority and women-owned businesses. Let's talk about that for a minute. You and I have both worked for a very, very long time on advancing minority and women-owned businesses. We've talked about small businesses in general, but you and I have visited Orange Mound. I think you may have grown up in Orange Mound. I think your family's is your house Still in Orange Mound? Your family's house is?
Yes, it's in the northern suburb called the Beltlines.
Okay, the Beltlines.
Of Orange Mound. Yes.
But even before this virus hit us, we were struggling with minority and women-owned business enterprises. Again, a lot of those were run with one person or two persons. Again, some of the challenges we had pre-coronavirus. Any comments about specifically minority and women-owned businesses and how they're going to survive this?
Yes. Two things. One, in doing the research that we were doing, Joanne Massey from the city of Memphis added some questions that were specifically targeted to women-owned and small minority businesses. So we got some intelligence and some information from them in regards to what they needed. And I think that is what is driving the city's creation of a fund to support small and women-owned businesses. So that's one thing that's happening. But I think the other thing is that through the program that you just talked about, the 800 initiative, we need to begin to build capacity. Yep. I do have a meeting with CBU tomorrow because I'd love to create a partnership so that we really can talk about how do we build capacity and how do we scale up these businesses so that they can become businesses that are hiring, more than 2 or 3 people, but maybe they can hire 50 people because of the magnitude of the learning that they gain as a direct result of what they're getting out of some of these additional programs. So I am looking forward to the conversation with CBU so that we can collectively put our heads together to talk about how do we scale it up? How do we build capacity? How do we make these businesses that can contribute in a much more major way to the economy of the Memphis marketplace? So I'm looking forward. And I have to thank Jack Shannon for his vision. I mean, he has come into this marketplace and he has gotten up to speed very quickly, and he understands and sees the issues, and he's trying to engage the community as a part of the solution. And I think that is exactly where we need to be.
And Beverly, you're referencing Jack Shannon, who's the new president of Christian Brothers University, and I agree with you so much. What's scary about a small business of any sort, and especially minority and women-owned businesses that tend to have fewer employees, is when before the coronavirus, you're talking about when someone gets cancer, someone has an incident you don't anticipate, it can take your small business down in really good times, quite frankly. But now our small businesses are faced with something we've never anticipated before, nothing we've ever lived with before. Beverly, you and I both changed. We all changed as a country after 9/11. I anticipate we're going to change a lot more after the coronavirus. How do you see the chamber adapting for the future? Do you think we're going to look the same after the coronavirus? Even after 24 months, are we going to look the same?
Well, here's what I'm hoping. Sometimes a major crisis like this creates tremendous opportunities. And what I think it is doing right now is allowing us to hold a mirror up to ourselves and see ourselves through a different lens. And what we see is not, we have a great city, but it's not all that pretty. There are a lot of disparities. There are a lot of inequities that we should use the platform of this virus to help us reset Memphis. And so what the chamber is doing is we're standing up a business, I don't want to say reset council, but a response council with the goal of exploring opportunities to literally reset Memphis and build greater equity into the marketplace. And I'd like for the business community to lead the way. And so we're going to talk not just about recovery, because that's something that's going to take place and is happening in lots of different levels, local level, state level, in the municipalities it's happening. But what we need to do is use this as an opportunity to talk about how can we avoid the trauma that these businesses experience this time. What is it that we need to do? What do we need to put in place? What could have been done differently? to help them survive, and then the other piece of that is, so that is the resilience piece. How do we make them more resilient? And then the other piece is, how do we reset the clock? How do we start all over again and start looking at the disparities and inequities in ways that allow us not to have 70% of the people who are dying be African American? And we know that part of that's the case because of the historic disparity in housing, in healthcare, in education, all of the things that have created that. We have not addressed them effectively over the course of time. We've got to right the ship. We cannot allow the ship to continue to sail because it is a recipe for disaster and failure if we do. So I am going to be working diligently with many in the business community. We're going to be going deep down into the various industries and looking at those. But I think all of us need to stop and reflect on, if you want to create a better Memphis, what role are you going to play in helping to drive that? It's not just your role, Mark, on the county commission. It's not just the role of city council. Everybody in the community, business community, grassroots community, community of faith, service providers, we all have a stake in the success of our city. And we have got to use this opportunity to galvanize around, building the kind of city that we know Memphis can be.
You're listening to The Chairman's Perspective. I'm Mark Billingsley, the host, and we are very fortunate today to have the president and CEO of the Greater Memphis Chamber with us, Beverly Robertson. Beverly, we were talking about disparities. I could not agree with you more. And if you look at the people who have died, as well as the people who have really been affected by COVID-19, it is African Americans in Memphis and the Mid-South. And when you look at the comorbidities, when you talk about how we're going to get out of this for the future, if you look at the comorbidities of who's dying, it's quite frankly African Americans with heart disease, with high blood pressure, with asthma. Some of the things we've got to address from a healthcare perspective. But as you and I both know, that all relates to poverty right here in our community and the ability to have a good job and to take yourself out of poverty. But you've got to have that. You got to have the tools, and you've long been a champion of those tools. Let me ask you, Beverly. You talked briefly about recovery. You are actively engaged in business recovery as an advisor on local, state, and national bodies. Tell me right now, what's the nature of the discussions that are happening? And tell me a little bit about what you're participating in and how you're guiding at a larger level than just here locally.
Let me start by just a general statement about the local effort, which really is designed to have a body of citizens to develop a set of recommendations on when we should open up here in Memphis. Lots of folks are talking about when they should open up. We're not considering opening anytime soon, I should say. And that's because I think we need to make sure that we are following the CDC guidelines. We need to be able to see some of that downward trending before we begin to put anything in place that suggests that we're about to open up. And that's to avoid having a recurrence of being able to open up, then shut down, and open up and shut down. We don't want that. So the mayor has asked us to look at how we will open, what will be the priority of those industries that need to open first, second, and third, so that local committees engaged in that. From the state level, the governor's task force, he has a group of individuals who are leading various industry groups that are really talking about, you can have a general set of guidelines, but how do we customize the opening? And how do we customize what those industries need to do differently to make sure that their employees are protected and anybody that they serve must be protected? So they're doing a deeper dive into the industries, and they are scheduled to bring initial recommendations to the table on tomorrow. And they will go, I'm sure, to the governor before the end of April so that he can talk about announcing those. But I will say this, the governor was wise enough to exclude from his, releasing of the stay-at-home ordinance, the metropolitan cities, thank God, because he recognizes that our challenges are a lot greater than smaller rural areas who may not have as much of a challenge as we do. So we have had the first Metro Cities meeting, and there are 3 objectives, and I think they are instructive. Those objectives are: we will make decisions based on the following. 1, protect the public's health. Number
Amen.
1.
Amen.
Number 2, use data and not dates to guide our decisions. Dates are one thing, but data is something entirely different. And 3, get the economies going and growing, but do so in a way that will prevent future closures. So those are 3 fundamental things that we're working against. And again, from the Metro Cities task force, we literally are dividing into 3 major segments of industries and building recommendations. We have a meeting this Friday. So I have a meeting with the Governor's Committee tomorrow and a meeting with the Metro Cities Committee on Friday to review those. So I will share all of those, but I love the objective of the Metro Cities. The big cities are really thinking about the right order in which to do things. Let's protect the public's health. Let's look at data, not dates. And then let's open and get the economy growing and going, but consider the fact that we don't want to have future closures. And so as we get this information, Mark, we will certainly make it available to you and certainly the broader public so that we can, and to the mayor's office, because I was really appointed to his task force, and I represent Memphis as a voice on these other 2 task forces as well.
Let me ask you this. At the Greater Memphis Chamber, are there COVID resources online on your website? Is there anything where, even if you're not a member of the chamber, that you can sign on and look at COVID efforts that you're leading?
Yes, we have a business resource page.
Okay.
And that resource page has all the webinars that we've got. There is an open directory which talks about the restaurants and the businesses that are open. There is a page that talks about jobs that are available, lists the companies where those jobs are available, contact people. So there is a wealth. We also list opportunities for small businesses to get loans and grants. So if they go to our website, that is a wealth of information that can guide and direct and help them. And if they don't see what they need, I just got a text before I got on here and I referred them to the website and I told them what was going on. And they were so thankful to be able to have a resource where they can go and get that kind of information. So yes, that's one of the major things that we did. And we keep adding to it and adding to it. In fact, the Federal Reserve Bank out of St. Louis has now added questions to our survey so that he can inform himself about what's happening with business in this region that will feed up to a national survey that the Federal Reserve Bank is doing.
Beverly, we've only got a few minutes left. Let me ask you, can you share the website of the Greater Memphis Chamber with everybody if they're listening in or viewing right now?
Yes, www.memphischamber.com.
Oh, that's easy. www.memphischamber.com.
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely. Please go to that site because you will be amazed by what you will learn and the kind of information that you will get.
Really, really good. Any parting words for those people right now who are struggling, especially as a small business? Any words of encouragement that will get through this?
Absolutely. There are a lot of people who are interested in assisting you, from Joanne Massey with the City of Memphis to Joselle Booker with MMBC to members of the Greater Memphis Chamber. We are here to assist you. And please don't hesitate to check out our website. But more importantly, if you just need to talk to somebody who's been there right with you and who understands what you're going, so because sometimes you just need somebody to listen to you.
Right.
So if you just need a listening ear, just know that we're there. And you're not the only one affected. Look, the Greater Memphis Chamber has membership that is 89% small business. So guess what? we've got to go raise money because we're going to be out of business too by October if we don't have an infusion of capital. So we know what you're talking about. We feel your pain, and we're here to provide services that can assist and help you.
Beverly, you have long been a leader in this community with the National Civil Rights Museum. So many things that you've touched. You and Howard are also having your own small business. I mean, you know what it's like day in, day out. Yes. But we are so fortunate to have Willie Gregory as the chairman of the Greater Memphis Chamber. We're so fortunate to have you as president and CEO of the Greater Memphis Chamber. Beverly, all I can say is God bless you. Thank you for all you've done, what you continue to do day in, day out. Thanks to the chamber staff. You've been listening to the Chairman's Perspective. I'm Mark Billingsley, Chairman of the Shelby County Board of Commissioners. We hope to see you back. And again, many thanks to Beverly Robertson today for sharing how the Greater Memphis Chamber is addressing business during the COVID-19 crisis. We'll see you the next time.
Thank you for what you do, Mark, and bless you.
Thank you.
The Chairman's Perspective Podcast. Executive producer, Shelby County Commission's Chairman, Mark Billingsley. Directed, produced, recorded, and distributed by KUDZUKIAN.